factoring by grouping. This, ladies and gentlemen, will really be the only time that you are going to factor. Only way to factor a 4-term phrase or whatever it is. 4-term, whatever. What am I looking for? 4-term something.
Polynomial.
Yeah, I guess that would work. Wasn't really what I was going for, but polynomial. Now, before we do that, I want you to show me what would give you a 4-term polynomial. We get a trinomial if you have this x plus 3 times x plus 2 gives you a trinomial. Why? Because in FOIL, the two middle terms would combine because they end up being like terms. But if you had this, let me put a y here. I would still do FOIL, but watch and see what you get. My first term is still x squared, right? My two outside terms is 2x, correct? My inside term is 3xy, and my last term is, somebody? 6y.
Y.
Alright? These two terms, because I had stuck that y in there, these two terms do not combine, so you end up with a 4-term thing. I really hate using the word thing. I keep thinking something better, sure. Okay, so here's the deal. Today what we're doing is we're starting with this, and you are going to factor it so that you end up with this. And the way we do that is to factor by grouping. And to which you're going to say, well, how does that work?
How does that work?
Here is the deal. To factor by grouping, and only certain ones of these work out. This is kind of the only way that you have to do this. You look at the first two terms. Let's take this. X squared plus 2x. I look at those first two terms, and I say, what can I factor out of those two terms? If I were to factor this, what can I take out?
X.
An x. And if I do that, I get x times x plus 2, right? Are you with me on that? I just factored out. It's reverse distributive property. The only way this works, ladies and gentlemen, is if I do the same thing with the second two terms, and I get this same x plus 2 in parentheses. Let's see what happens. All right, if I factor this, which is 3xy plus 6y, what can I take out of those?
That's a 2-1.
No.
3y.
What can I take out?
Where'd you get the 2?
Where'd you get
Why?
the 2 at?
Yeah, okay, that's what I was going to say. What can I take out? I'm sorry. You can
3y.
take a 3y out. And when I take a 3y out, what am I left with? X plus 2. Okay. If you get the same binomial here, what you do is you keep just one of that binomial, still keep it in parentheses, and then the other two terms, I shall make a different color, you put this with this, and that's your other binomial. Because really what you're doing, when you do FOIL, is you're taking the first term and multiplying it by both of these, which is what this is, and then you're taking the second term and multiplying it by both of these, which is what that was. So you end up with this as your factors. Let's do one we don't know. It's really not that hard as long as you follow the process. Let's say you have 3a squared b, 3a squared b minus 18a times plus 30 minus 5ab. What did I say? Plus 30 minus 5ab. Alright, are we looking at that? Now, oh, maybe I don't want to do this. Can I change this? We could do this. Yeah, we can do this. Do I wanna do this?
No,
No.
I think I got it.
Alright,
I'm on it.
let's just look at this. By the way, at some point, if you ever feel the need, you can always write these in any order. If you wanted to group two other ones together. For example, this has an A and a B, and that has an A and a B. I could flip-flop this with that and still do it, but it should work either way. Let's look at this. If I have this first two terms, what can I factor out of this?
A 3A.
A 3 and an A, right? And inside that, I end up with what left over?
A.
B minus 6, correct? Take 3 out of that.
AB minus 6. AB minus 6.
What?
That's a squared.
Stop. I was not this way since before. Okay, now, so what I'm hoping for, children, what needs to happen is I need an AB minus 6 to happen over here. That's the only way that you can break this into groups. Now, it will and it does. You may want to flip these two terms around and put the minus 5AB first because you get the AB term first there. It doesn't matter, you can move those things here. What can I take out of this? I can take a 5 out, right? That's it. If I take a 5 out, I'm left with a minus AB minus plus 6, sorry. Yeah. Now, do I have an AB minus 6? I don't. I have an AB minus 6 here, but here I have the opposite of that. Anybody idea what the fix of that is?
You expect me to know this?
I'm expecting you to take a legitimate guess.
Repeat the question.
I want an AB minus 6 here, but I have a minus AB plus 6 here, which is exactly the opposite of what I want.
Put a minus
Wade?
You switch out, you multiply
Good.
that.
If I would have made this a minus 5, then these would both change to their opposite too. Hence giving you what you want. So you end up with 3AB minus 5 on the outside times AB minus 6 on the inside. Now, lest I forget to tell you this again, if I write down this problem here, 45A cubed B, 45A cubed B, I'm really out of practice here, minus 15A cubed. Minus 15A cubed. Oh, I like where this is going. Plus 15A squared B. What do you think my last one's going to be?
B squared.
Nope, mine's 5A squared. Now, I want you to pause and take a look at that for just a second. I have told you this before, I didn't mention it today, but I will mention it right now. When you are factoring, the very first thing, Abram Savage, you should do is Parker is. Maybe you can see it there, maybe you can't. Tyler is. Anybody care to speculate? I've said this before.
What was the question?
When factoring anything, before you even go, your mind starts spinning in all different directions on how to factor it, the first thing you should do is,
Greatest common factor.
thank you very much, Sleazer. Sometimes you are right on top of your A game there.
Sometimes.
When you look at anything, you need to look for, do they have, is there a GCF, we just really need the common factor, of all terms. Before you start going all willy-nilly there, looking at that, what can I take out of everything first? 5
A
and an
squared.
A
5A squared.
and a squared. It's true. So I take out a 5A squared. That's my first step. What am I left with here? 9AB. What am I left with here? Minus 3A. What am I left with here?
Plus
3B. B
Minus.
minus 1. Yeah, you have to keep that 1 there, otherwise that thing goes away. And now you try to factor it by grouping. To which you're going to say, oh, what? This don't make no sense. But remember, this 5a squared needs to stay outside of everything, so you got to keep writing that down. 5a squared, it stays on the outside. What can I take out of these two? A 3
3A.
and an a. And when I take a 3a out, I am left with a
B.
3b minus 1. And then, children, here's where some people start to cry because they don't understand. Weep uncontrollably. Look, I need to get this 3b minus 1 over here, but I can't factor anything out of that.
Didn't keep a 1 out.
Yes, you can. Okay, you can always, because this is what exactly you want, you could factor out a positive 1, which changes nothing, but it gives you that 3b minus 1 as your other factor. So the question is, Paka, right here, what two binomials do I get from this part of the problem? What times what do I get?
3.
You take this and put it with this, which gives you 3a plus 1. And that gets multiplied by this, which is the 3b minus 1. And you still need to keep that outside of all of it. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is that whole thing factored by grouping. This is almost scary to the point of insanity. Wait, how am I going to factor that by grouping?
I think something that's scary to the point of insanity.
Makes me sad. Doesn't make me sad.
It's like if
So
you're
scared that you're like,
It's like if you're scared of a clown and that clown comes out your
Look at
right, you
page
won't say,
573. Page 573.
I'm not listening.
Right now, where you are sitting, I would like you to do letter A. Letter A. Where it says 3y squared plus 6yz plus 4y plus 8z. Factor that. Tell me what. Factor it by grouping. First of all, check to see if it has a common factor. And then see what you get. And I'll see what I get. And we'll see if we get there together. And I hopefully will get there before you do. Savage, did you get something? Abram? Is it the right answer? You get two binomials.
Yeah,
And you got?
y plus 2z.
That's y plus 2z, that's one binomial. I need a second one.
Oh yeah, and the other side is
Is what?
y
Is northwest.
plus 2z.
Something
the other
plus
one?
2z?
They're both y.
They're both y plus?
No.
Cows?
3y plus 4 times y plus 2z.
3y, is that right?
Yes.
Alright, let's take a look. I'm gonna do a couple different things here. First of all, if you factor this out, it looks like you take the 3y out, you're left with y plus 2z. Plus, looks like I can take a 4 out there, which gives you y plus 2z. That's good because you want that as your same thing. What happens at this point? You take this and put it with that, 3y plus 4, that's your first binomial, and that gets multiplied by y plus 2z is your second one. And again, remember, well, let's look at the other one. Let's look at the problem letter B. Letter B, you're supposed to, no, go ahead, do letter Z. Letter C. Do letter C right now. And again, remember the fundamental number one rule of factoring. Fundamental number one is to rearrange before. We're gonna stop this crazy thing.